From beyond the farthest reaches of our galaxy they come. Two brains pulsing with a strange energy. These space brains come to share their love of science fiction movies.
Hi, welcome to Space Brains, the show where we joy watch sci-fi movies and then talk about what was good and what was great. I'm Surrey, and this is Mark.
Hiya. Tonight we're talking about the sci-fi film Pitch Black, released in 2000, directed by David Twohy and starring the one and only Vin Diesel. So consider this your spoiler warning.
Yes, turn back now if you haven't seen this film, watch it, and come back and find out what's so good about it.
It's a long way between stops for something to go wrong, sorry. These are wise words from Vin Diesel at the beginning in the voiceover part of the film.
You're not afraid of the dark, are you?
After this film, yes.
Yes. Why not?
Definitely.
Yeah, and this film was a bit of a surprise film, relatively low budget, 23 million or 25 million, depending on who you're asking and what dollars you're talking about. But certainly, I mean, considering Star Wars back in 1978 was 20 or 30 million.
Yeah.
So, you know, for a space film, pretty small. We also have to take into account, though, they don't have the sorts of computer graphics and systems we have now where... a solo person in their own home office can produce, you know, major quality science fiction sort of special effects.
Yeah,
so 23 million didn't take you very far back in 2000.
No, but I mean, I do think probably so you do have to take that into account. I think watching this film is the special effects. They relied heavily on CGI, and that CGI probably has dated a little bit in this particular film.
They kept a lot of it in the dark though, so that's
did.
okay.
Yeah. There was, they used the dark really well, and then at the same time, I really think what's extremely clever in this film is because it is, a film about the darkness with the creatures, and also Vin Diesel's character having his eye surgery.
And let's not forget
situation.
The metaphorical darkness within.
That's right.
Us. Yeah.
But because of all of those things, what the film did really well is they could really experiment with lighting and color and the effect of being on such an alien planet. And I reckon they did that extremely well in this film.
They did, and the box office here was over 50 million, so it more than doubled its money.
Yeah, it did well that way.
And
we always think that's well in our books.
Well, I think they were very pleased with it as well. It spawned 2 sequels.
Yeah. And
I mean, it largely launched Vin Diesel into the public eye.
Yeah, brought him right up to us, because I think Fast and the Furious was right after.
Just after this, Fast and Furious and Triple X, and then another 6 Fast and Furious.
And they keep going. But I mean, I think for him, it's probably one of those things that, it's like these couple of big Hollywood films, and all of a sudden he's a blockbuster actor, isn't he?
Yeah, well, and so he should be. He did really well in this one. I've seen a couple of his other films where... I don't think he had as good direction, or maybe he just wasn't as well cast. But in this film, he's definitely a standout, and that's why the sequels are called Riddick. They're not called, Bounty Hunter Chasing Man or something like that.
Yeah, and they did, I saw just a bit of trivia, they re-released the title of this film when it got to sort of DVD as The Chronicles of Riddick. So it was Pitch Black, The Chronicles of Riddick, whereas the cinema release was just Pitch Black.
Pitch Black.
So you're right, like the strength of his character, people that loved this film at the time, that's what they realised. They realised that the strength was Vin Diesel, the character of Riddick, and that's what people wanted to know, didn't they? That's what they recognised.
Oh, absolutely. And it's interesting, I think we'll go into more as we progress our way through the synopsis, but this is definitely a movie that... On first blush, if you read the little blurb about it, and I remember going into this film, I watched this in the cinemas when it first came out with my friends. I was in, 2000. Was it 2000?
2000, yeah.
I was at uni.
There you go.
Yeah. No, I'd finished uni. Oh my God, I don't know how old I am.
What were you doing? Were you at the movies on a weekday when you should have been working?
That's how old I was. But
you don't need to reveal all the secrets.
No, I was in a share house. That's why I thought I was at uni. No, I wasn't at uni. It was after that in a share house with business partners of mine at the time.
That sounds even more suspicious now.
Yeah,
shared house with business partners.
Yeah, our business was not booming, so I went and got a real job. But we watched this movie, and it was sold as a creature alien movie.
Yeah, well, like I know the genre, online it's saying horror sci-fi.
Yeah, so I went in there expecting that, and it is that to an extent.
Yeah, it is. It is.
But that's not where the charm of this movie lies. If you go in there, and this is like I saw some criticism of that movie Tao. People were expecting a killer house AI gone wrong. Like that's just kind of like a cliche.
Yep.
And they were expecting that, and they were disappointed because, of course, in Tao the house is actually arguably the good guy.
Yeah, and it's much deeper than just a killer house. More to it.
And likewise, this is it's got some jump scares, and it's got a bit of gore and fright, sort of building horror type of things, which they've got some really good concepts of that in this movie, which we'll talk about. But there is another layer to this movie, which is what I think captured people's imaginations, and probably was not really captured by the sequels very well. So let's go. So this movie, as you said, it starts with a voiceover. Vin Diesel has got an amazing voiceover. I'm surprised he doesn't do more voiceover work. He's just got this great sort of deep, rich voice.
Yeah, it's a bit dusty, like it's got a bit of a croak in a good way, like there is something really good about his voice for a character like this,
Yeah.
And if you took any sort of murder, like murder crime gangster film, his voice would work, he would be able to set that tone.
Well, I think definitely also as a bit of a thinking criminal.
Yeah.
He doesn't sound,
definitely.
He's got that deep, heavy voice, but it's not a thuggish voice.
No.
It's definitely sounds cunning, which is very good. And it starts off with his voiceover, and it's telling us that we're in he's in cryosleep, your reptile brain is still awake, and he talks through who else is in this little. It's a
great line, but I mean, I know we want to move through the plot quicker, but it is a great line telling you something about his character, because he says that in cryosleep the primitive brain stays awake, that it stays conscious, I think, and he's like, so this is why I'm awake. It's like, so he is a bit animalistic, as a character.
It's an interesting insight into this film as well, and I would love to talk with the director and writers on this, because I don't know if this was an intentional thing or convenient happenstance. Maybe their reptile brains were still awake while they were writing, and so they came up with this. But and it's a bit of a hint in where the true gem of this movie lies, is that right at the start we're given this hint that in cryosleep the primitive brain is so we're already being told to think about this deeper emotional, almost primitive level of action and reaction, and how that operates, and how he as a character lives within that to some extent. Because I think the whole rest of the movie could almost be considered a psychological portrait, or even if you've seen that movie, the Disney movie Inside Out, where the little emotion characters running inside the girl's head, you could almost sort of picture much of this film as being filmed as something happening inside someone's head while they're in cryosleep. There's sort of, and Riddick is the primitive side of it, and able to view all the other little bits and pieces running around. And I think that really sets the scene well. It also doesn't hurt that his cryo box has got restricted access. Lockdown, do not open. No, do not for emergency opening. Because then, of course, little micrometeorites go shoot through and blast through the ship, and sirens go off, and it's a bit of a primitive looking ship. It's clearly not a top level level liner. I think it's mentioned in the voiceover that these people are frozen in sleep because it's such a shitty spaceship. It looks like it's made of iron girders and
it's pretty
grills
looking.
And grates. It's that sort of thing, industrial looking thing, and it gets damaged. And of course, the emergency system goes off, and the computer says wake up the pilot, wake up the docking someone or other, and the captain.
Yep.
And the pilot and the docking guide or whoever it is, I can't remember what they're called.
Yeah.
They drop out on the floor, but then we see this meteorites go shooting through the captain and kill him. So instantly, presumably the leader is dead, and the pilot, Fly, I think her name is, Carolyn Fly. Yeah, she sort of goes, oh, geez, okay, I've got to do something. So she runs up and starts doing her checklist, and she's shouting at the other guy who's the navigator, and he's the docking expert or something or other, and he's doing some navigation, saying, come on, stars, where are you? Show us where you are. Please still be in a major shipping lane.
Yeah.
And then they go, oh, shit, and they look out the window, and they're actually coming in to land on a planet.
Mm-hmm.
And by land, I don't think this is a spaceship that normally lands.
No.
It's geared up for emergency landing because it had air brakes, which she begins applying as this thing enters the atmosphere. Stuff is breaking off. She's pulling the air brakes out, trying to level the craft out. I'm not entirely sure what that's meant to do. I assume it's got some sort of retro thrusters which will slow it down, but it's got to be on the right angle. And it's one of the air brakes doesn't work right. It's stuck. And so she goes, oh, I'm going to like eject. She starts ejecting
parts of the
bits of the ship, which are clearly ejectable.
Yep.
And till it's just the cryo sleep components.
The passengers,
and her. And then she reaches back and tries to last the air brake and blah, 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 and that gets jammed.
Yeah, and so she's going to release them, and the co-captain.
Yeah, who that other guy is? I can't remember now. It's like I could have sworn he's like the docking pilot or something.
Something like that. Anyway, he stops her, doesn't he? But he blocks the door, so she can't, because she actually does. She pulls the trigger to release it.
She ends up pulling the trigger. Yeah, the other dude blocks it.
The other guy's blocked it, yeah.
So she can't, and he says, you've still got 70 seconds to make it work. And she goes, and starts like really having a good go at it.
Yeah.
And sure enough, at the last moment, the air brakes come on and the craft levels out, and then it hits the ground and it slides and bits and pieces go everywhere. Sparks go flying. Everyone's thrown around the place. The back half of the ship gets torn out, and you're seeing caskets getting dumped out the back like it's nobody's business.
Yep.
And finally it comes to a rest, and Fly wakes up to survey what's going on. The other passengers who have survived, the Imam and his 3 pupils who are on pilgrimage Hajj.
Yeah.
And then also the couple of prospectors and an antiquities dealer who is clearly a cheapskate because he's taking the cheap seats.
Yep.
And she finds her co-pilot person skewered.
Yeah.
And there's a bounty hunter, of course, or police officer at that time.
Cop at this point, yeah.
Well, as he points out later on in the film, he never actually said he was a prisoner, but he's wearing a uniform and
he is.
He's looking that way. But the co-pilot's got a stick in him, a splinter.
Yeah.
It's a great big chunk of steel going through him, and he's in a great deal of pain.
Yeah.
And he shouts out, "Don't pull that lever! Don't pull that!" And the woman and Fly manages to calm him down, and it's kind of that thought of everyone's, because she was just reaching to grab the bar out of him.
Yeah.
So people sort of thinking, oh, okay, it's just like clearly he doesn't want this bar pulled out. Yeah, and they sort of leave her alone with him, and he dies, as you'd expect.
Yeah.
In a great deal of pain, as you'd also expect, considering the bit sticking out of him.
So it's a good little setup there, because Fry, she's kind of guilty in a way. She's got a guilty conscience about, she was going to let them all die. Like she was going to dispose of them to keep herself alive, to avoid the ship completely crashing. And actually, even when they were going down, that docking captain even said, remember he says to her as well, like the company or I think he said the company deems it's our responsibility. They're our responsibility, you know? So he's kind of making it really clear, like if you let them go, we're going to be in trouble, you know, like we're in, you know, not only like morally, but there will be repercussions as well, you know? So I really liked that as someone that hadn't seen this film previously. I liked that setup for Fry, that straight away she had a guilty conscience, because she would have let them go, and she tried to, you know, to save her own back.
The dead guy was actually the hero.
Yes,
who risked everything.
Yep. And he died,
but,
yeah.
And then, was it almost immediately someone says, "Oh, well, we should just be grateful because you saved us."
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. That's really. Oh, thanks. And everyone's like thanking her for saving them, and she's going, "Yeah, no worries."
Yeah, no worries about that. Yeah, maybe. And then it's there they realise that Riddick has escaped as well.
That do not open until Christmas sign has been torn off.
It's been ripped apart. He's somehow gotten out. And the cop, who never says he's a cop, says, does let us know that, he's a murderer and you don't want to know his past and all these sort of things. And he looks for him. And personally, I just said it to you earlier that it's a great little scene that he kind of creeps around and all of a sudden, like he's got the legs around his throat and he's being choked. And,
you're jumping ahead.
Sorry, am I? No, I thought that was...
No, because they go all wandering.
They go wandering first, do they? Oh, okay. Sorry. I am jumping ahead.
Yes.
They go looking for him and water. That's right.
So they're looking for him and water. And so they all go up and...
Sorry to ruin it. I hope you did go and watch it.
You better watch it.
We gave the spoiler.
You're not watching it while we're talking, I assume.
No, I'd presume not. That would be annoying.
We should do an episode doing that. They were watching it and spoiling the whole movie for you as we go along. But, so they go out and have a bit of look around and... Immediately we go to this really hard filter.
Yeah.
This light is... I'm not sure they did actually film that in Cooper Pedy. I've been in Cooper Pedy in summertime, and I'm not sure how much of a filter they would have had to have used because it feels like that.
Yeah.
That sort of white, hot light. Because the ground is white limestone gravel type stuff. Reflects the sun like nobody's business.
Well, you just, on any camera, you just open up your iris...
Yeah.
I remember a photographer telling me in Australia, you've got to shoot a couple of stops down, meaning that, your iris is smaller. And if you just open it up, like it is blaring, it's just going to get that white. So that you wouldn't even be able to open it up here anyway in the middle of the day, for example, normally. So let alone if you're in like a desert location with all of that light.
I remember visiting Cooper Pedy and it was just, it's so bright. And I mean, it wasn't especially hot. And I say that in relative terms. Yeah, it was in the high 30s centigrade, but you didn't feel it looked hotter than it felt, is what I'm trying to say. It looked like you're inside an oven, but it didn't actually feel that way. I think it's because it's so dry as well. You don't get the humidity. But nonetheless, we've got this really bright, harsh thing, and everyone's squinting and it's all glary, and they climb up and they look out and we're following. Is her name Fry or Fly?
Fry.
It is Fry? Okay.
It is Fry.
Caroline Fry. Oh, Kazza. We follow her perspective. She climbs up and one of the guys says to her, we were going to go back and look for survivors, but then we saw this. And they look, there's this trail of destruction heading off to the horizon.
Yeah.
And it's clear from that any survivors are going to be a long way away if there's any at all.
Yeah.
And there was one.
Yeah.
But they go, okay, well, let's go looking.
Yeah.
Keep your eye out for Riddick because he's going to rip you apart and skull fuck you, I think
that's
was the term said. Like,
it is, isn't it?
I'm pretty sure he probably never actually has done that. But still.
You never know.
The images, he was in the slam where they told him he'd never see the light again. So they go off searching around.
So they went looking for water.
I only just saw this the other night.
Yeah, I only saw it last night. So this is how bad.
Yeah, they go looking for water and they see the trees.
Yeah, they see the trees.
They say, there's the trees, where there's trees, there's water.
Yeah.
And the imam says, Allah provides or something or other.
Yeah.
And this is a great bit where they turn up and because they see trees off in the distance in their little binoculars. So they wander on up over this hill. And as they crest, they find it. They're not trees. They're actually like the weird skeletal outgrowths of these enormous dead beasts.
Yeah, no. So I was right what I was saying before.
Oh,
that because he is captured twice. So the first time he's in the ship
before they go looking.
Yeah, because then he does the dislocating of the shoulders.
Yeah, crunch.
And then that's when he goes. Then he's just
okay. So let's quickly just retcon that in there. And they wander out.
I was right the first time.
Okay, you're right. I was right. The cop's in the ship, and Riddick chokes him out with tries to choke him out with his legs.
Because again, you don't. That's what I was saying. Like at that point, you don't see. You
still don't see. We've only
like you're seeing these little bits of him. You're not seeing.
Yeah, we only know him as some badass.
Yeah, and he's got like the it's like the sex thing, isn't it? It's like he's got
a ball gag on.
Yeah. You know, he's got that fully going on, and because he's got the glasses on, you just don't really see much of him.
So there's a bit of a struggle there. The bounty hunter manages to get him at gunpoint.
Yeah.
And tie him up.
And there's a nice moment there because he again, you still don't really see Vin Diesel or Riddick much, but the bounty hunter, like after the fight, he sort of smirks.
Yeah.
And that's because, you know, later we're going to find out a bit more about the whole reason why the bounty hunter. You can see
they've got a bit of history.
There's a bit of history going on there. And there's a little kind, and I liked that. It's like the cop. At this point, I'm thinking, oh, he's a cop, whatever, and transporting this dangerous prisoner, and it's like, you know, he's sort of like, oh, you got me again, but I got you. Like, you're a good challenge for me, you know? And it's kind of, I liked that, you know?
So anyway, Riddick does escape and disappears off.
He does escape again.
Running towards the setting sun, I think he says. Or rather, his manacles, his bondage gear is off towards the setting sun. And so the cops as well, he went off towards the rising sun then. Yeah. And so they find these skeletons of these enormous creatures, like huge creatures. Yeah. They're walking through rib cages, big.
Yeah.
And as they're walking through there, looking about the place, you get little glimpses of Riddick hiding.
You do.
Watching, and he's just observing.
Yeah.
And Carolyn Fry, the pilot, she sits down by some rib cage and takes a slug of some whiskey because that's all that they've got in the way of to drink. She says, I probably shouldn't drink this because it'll just dehydrate you. And little known fact is, it does dehydrate you, but you won't die of thirst by drinking unless you drink pure alcohol. But drinking wine and whiskey, you won't actually die of thirst. You'll probably wish you did because you won't be feeling very good. But your body will scavenge enough water out of it. But anyway, so she's there at the ribcage, and Riddick is coming up behind her. He's got like some sort of sharp tooth claw thing. And
it's like a shiv.
It's like, he's instantly got himself a shiv. And he's going up, and I remember watching this first time thinking, it was quite tense. And I was like, oh, God, is she going to die because she made that mistake? Yeah. So classically, she would die. The cop would die as well. And it would just be, I imagine the imam was going to die because he would have to, at least one of the kids was going to survive. Yeah. And someone else. But anyway.
The innocence.
Yeah. So anyway, and then she starts sort of, I think she confesses.
Yeah, she is.
She confesses that she was going to pull the thing and kill everyone.
And that stops him.
Yeah, and Riddick sort of pulls the knife away and is like, ooh, this just got interesting.
Yeah, and he cuts a bit of her hair.
Yeah, a bit of her hair and sniffs
gives it a sniff.
Which, to be fair, he's probably been locked in prison for a long time. He probably doesn't have the greatest social graces. And that's as probably close to him saying, hello, my name's Riddick. I'm pleased to meet you.
Yeah.
As he's going to
get. I'm going to sniff a chunk of your hair.
Yeah, I'm going to sniff your hair. Yeah, so, and I like that. That was another beautiful little peek in. It sort of added a bit of complexity to Riddick. The fact that he heard this confession, and I'm not sure if he was going to kill her right then and there or not, but he definitely backed away and then changed to what he was going to do, and I thought that was just really cool, and that was the start of, I think, him being sympathetic. Is the fact that we've been told he's just this psycho killer, and the build up to that, I was expecting part of the story was going to be trying to escape from Riddick, and part from aliens,
and they're
going to be sort of stuck between the two of them, and as it turned out, though, you got this little, that's almost a save the cat moment, isn't it? It's like that moment where you suddenly realise that Riddick is not just...
He's not just
murderous. He's thinking and, so far you realise you don't actually know anything about him. No. Except what this cop has told us.
Yeah.
So far, he hasn't actually tried to hurt anyone. Yep. Except the cop. But then the cop had a gun. So, So that was very cool. And they leave there and continue exploring.
Yep.
In the meantime, one of the prospectors, tremendously Australian. Not only does he have a tremendous Australian accent, he's actually an Aboriginal Australian.
Yes. Yeah.
So, he is super Australian. He's actually doing the nice thing and trying to bury the bodies.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, that is a real waste of your time.
It is.
I don't know. I guess some people, that's...
Yep, that would be what they'd want to do, I suppose.
If I know, and I was thinking about this at the time. I was thinking, I've grown up without any death you're not even like livestock or anything like that. So it's kind of, I don't have any inbuilt or ingrained rituals or ceremony or appreciation. I've not been to any funerals even.
Right.
So, if people died in a crash like that, I'll sort of pull their bodies away from where I'm staying. But like I'm looking around, there's no vultures or coyotes or anything. There's not like we're going to be a drawing. So why am I wasting oxygen and water and effort when I should be trying to get oxygen and water and shelter, So he's off digging
a big
pits.
grave.
I think he's just digging the one pit.
Yeah.
I think he's being at least sensible enough to just go for a mass grave rather than trying to do individual ones. And he digs down and finds like a little hole.
Yeah.
In the meantime, the other guys, they find a research settlement.
Yeah. They found an old building.
And they go through it and they're like, it's abandoned. There's nothing there. But Fry finds a spaceship.
Yes.
Like a spacecraft of some sort.
Yeah, a little small one.
Landing ship.
Yeah.
And so they're like, whoo, we've got an escape.
Yeah, and they also find, like, it looks like something that might make water. They sort of look at a machine that kind of maybe it's got a tap at the end of it and a spinning thing. And they're finding these little bits of, obviously people lived here at some point.
Yeah, and we get ourselves back to Gravedigger, and he's got this little hole in the ground.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, "Ooh, what's that?" And he pokes his head in there, and
which of course is what you would do.
He reaches in, and then he's like he's screaming. Something's got him, and drags him in there, and everyone comes running.
Yeah, and
they all turn up, and there's Riddick squatting over this hole, holding a shiv.
Yeah,
and he just kind of looks up. And you see you can't see his eyes, but he's thinking, this doesn't look good, does it? Yeah, this is not how I want it to be. So Riddick this is his second capture, where he's chained up. And
in that, Fry questions him.
This is a fantastic scene, isn't it?
Yeah.
Where Vin Diesel is like, is very terse with his answers, saying that something else...
Bit cryptic.
Something else got him. And
she doesn't believe him.
And she says, ask about his eyes, because his goggles are off and he's got like a shine to his eyes.
It's a weird
thing. So she asks about it and he says, come closer. And she comes up close and then he jumps up and goes, rah, in her face to scare her, but shows his eyes, which definitely have like sort of a weird shine on them.
And the story is that they were surgical
shine job.
Yeah. Because then we have that young, male/female character, Jack is kind of lurks in the darkness and is like, oh, really? Oh, cool. How much does that cost? And how do you get that done? And why would you do that? And so he kind of,
he says basically
a chunk of information about it.
He was thrown in he admitted that he killed a few people.
Yep.
And he was thrown into Slam.
Yeah.
Some sort of terrible prison.
Yeah.
Where he would basically underground.
Yep.
And he would never see light again. So he got a surgical shine job.
Yeah. So he could see in the dark.
Which it really gave me the feeling that these prisons are prison worlds.
Yeah.
With big underground, prisons, mining colonies perhaps.
Yep.
With their own economies and their own society made up entirely of murderers and criminals.
So then Fry goes, okay, we've got a plan. Okay, he's saying there's something else out there. So she goes back to the hole with everyone else, ties a rope around her, and she goes crawling into this same hole.
I remember watching that going, is that the best idea?
Yeah, I know. You always see this in these kind of films and you think, what the hell are you doing?
If this were just like you exploring like an old mine or something, not expecting there to be anything in there. Yeah, I suppose, because it would mean then that if you fell down a dead, a shaft or whatever, and people could follow it to find you back and that sort of thing. But maybe, we know the tropes of horror movies.
Yeah, and I see there's a couple of moments in this film, because we've also talked about them, like and I'll come back to it with the lighting, like it was a little bit 2001. I felt like that moment in this film was a bit alien, that, you know, because the captain in Alien, he goes off, doesn't he? And it's that famous scene, you know, like
sort of crouching through.
You know, and at the same time in that film, like, why does he go up into the vents? You know, he's the captain. He's sort of, and I think she felt that in this scene, that she was responsible. You've got to go look in the cat. The guy was
still
called
trying
Zeke.
to.
Yeah, so you can, I suppose, maybe sometimes, you know, there's a bit of responsibility on the people that are the captains and the leaders, that they kind of have to put their neck out a bit.
But see, I think this is all leading into what was actually popular about this film, rather more so than as I said, the alien horror thriller type aspects here. Is the movie here again? It's about this sort of inner look of guilt and redemption, and you know, the sort of bad things that we can do, and fear of who we really are. And so this is just the start of that, and this theme of you know, as I said, redemption and guilt and anger and fear and all the rest of it builds and builds to the end, where you have the finale.
The finale,
which is my favorite scene towards the end there. I'll tell you about when we get to it, but yeah, for sure, she's going in there because
she crawls in there.
She had to go in there.
It's quite. I was thinking it was really typically set for a teenage boy audience, that, because she's like on all fours. She's got a rope, like, and it's always one of these funny things sometimes.
You
like, it's just a rope.
You see down her shirt.
You see straight down her top.
I'm trying to be a grown-up adult, you know, and about the whole thing, but nonetheless, I'm sort of looking, going, you can see your boobies.
Yeah, there's a lot of boobies there.
And then
Radha
like,
Mitchell.
then as she's sort of ducking down on all fours through the thing,
crawling,
wearing her tight
bending,
pants, and you're sort of going.
It's always like, you know, what's
it's a horror trope.
It's a horror trope that we're going to see some boobs, and you know, so being that Radha Mitchell is the captain here, and she's doing it well. She's got to be in something super tight and bendy and stretching. So the tunnel is sort of, you know, when Zeke got pulled down there by the animals, it's all like blood and guts and rocks and stuff. You're not seeing anything sexy there. Whereas she's creeping down, and, you know, she's all curvy and smooth.
Oh, that would have been interesting. It was like, when Zeke sort of, he craws down there and his shirt falls open. You see his muscles, a bit of rippled chest.
Well, there is films that do that, but not this one.
Crawls forward a bit and waves his butt in the air in his tight jeans. You're going,
So beside that, and then you can do that as an adult and joke a little bit about. But it is a very tense scene. You know, you know that something's down there, and she's creeping down. And
it does provide a bit of a juxtaposition, because you've got this sort of, and it's not overtly sexual, but nonetheless, it is a bit provocative.
Yeah, it is provocative,
and it is a way of, you know, heightening your senses and awareness.
It is,
and it's kind of that as a juxtaposition between this vulnerability, and the horror, you know, and the danger she's going into. The fact that she's only got a flight suit on.
Yeah,
it's not very protective. And as we can well see,
we can see a lot of her.
but yeah, I think despite being a bit exploitative, it does also add to the tension.
Yeah.
Because you're sort of going, I shouldn't be. This is kind of a bit scary. Why am I finding it also? You know, you're mating that scariness with a bit of sort of sexuality.
It's a good old technique of horror. Really.
Oh, it's great. And she crawls into this nest.
She basically,
we don't know it's a nest at the time, but she crawls into these tunnels.
Well, I think as an audience, we sort of do.
I think we kind of, because they had a look and they saw the little chimneys, and that was highlighted as being, well, that's a bit odd.
Yeah.
But, you know.
But anyway, so she gets to the bottom, and again, like, not Predator, like Alien, she's looking one way, and this thing is on the roof, isn't it? And, and it's a bit more obvious than Alien.
Yeah,
but
at first you don't see it until it moves, and then you go, oh, hang on.
Yeah, but the clever thing here is it's moving, and she's not seeing it. So they're giving us as an audience like a terror moment, aren't they? Because you're like, oh God, what's going to happen? Is she just going to get her head ripped off? Or,
well, that's that Alfred Hitchcock, when he talks about the difference between shock and tension, or whatever it is, where it says, you know, two guys sitting at a table and a bomb goes off. That's a bit of shock. But two guys sitting at a table and you got the camera angle low and you can see the bomb, and there's a clock ticking down on it.
Yep.
That's the tension. The two guys don't know it's there, but the audience knows it's there, and it's gonna strike.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. So she's going up there and she starts, I think she does, she sort of sees movement and things, and she freaks.
Well, then she sees Zeke's
his foot. Yes.
Just his foot.
Dismembered foot.
Yeah, so it's all bloody and ripped apart.
So she freaks out and climbs up one of these chimneys.
Yeah.
And this is immediately where I remember watching it going, yeah, that rope around your waist, probably not an asset at this point. Because if she's like pulling on it and they go, oh, she wants to come out.
I'll pull her back through.
That's what I thought was going to happen.
I did too, yeah.
But she climbed up though, and I guess the monsters must have grabbed it and started pulling it down. But she screams and screams, help me, I'm in here. Yeah, and they dig in and they pull her out.
Pull her out of that one.
And you get that moment of, and then the rope goes tight and she goes, rah, and gets pulled back towards it, just about flies down there.
I was thinking that whole time, like, cut the bloody rope.
Yeah, get that rope off.
Just cut it. Like, get rid of it. Like, why would you hold on to that rope?
Yeah, so they managed to cut off and she's safe. And they go, oh, don't know what was in there. That was pretty bad.
And I mean, we've sort of seen a bit of the alien creature. It's sort of a bit reptilian. It's kind of, it's not, what do you reckon? Like, is it the size of a human or half a human or something?
Yeah,
it can creep on the wall, and it's got a bit of a tail, and
it's got obviously a forked tail.
Yeah, forked tail.
That, yeah.
And it's obviously can clamber up the walls upside down and up, and it's fast. So we're sort of, we've been given a bit about the creature without too much.
Yeah, so that's where they go back to the huts.
They do, and then what's going on is the cop is doing a deal with Riddick at this point to let him go.
Yeah, because they've got this spaceship.
Yeah,
and they need 5 power cells, and they're like, well, they're 35 kilos each. We're going to drag these things here.
You're a big dude.
Yeah, they go, well, we've got a prisoner here who'll drag this shit.
Yeah. And then he will survive. We can make the deal that, well, Riddick died on this planet in the crash.
Yeah.
And Riddick agrees to do that, doesn't he?
Yeah, well, there is that moment where the cop says, remember this moment.
Yeah.
So I could have killed you and I didn't. Yes. And then, Riddick sort of is released from the shackles and immediately snatches the gun and knocks the cop down and points the gun at Radha's face. And there's a tense moment. And you can see Riddick's probably considering it. He's calculating.
He should have said, remember this moment.
And, well, that's what he says in it. He says, now you remember this moment.
Yeah.
And he doesn't say the rest of the line, but leaves it. And that's one of those beautiful one-liners where you're just like, yeah. And again, that wins the audience because, again, he's merciful.
Yeah, he hasn't.
And he's a bit of a smart aleck. Yeah. And so, and this was about the point where I was starting to actually like Riddick.
Yeah, you are.
Because initially it was kind of like he's a bit fearsome, and then he doesn't kill the woman, just cuts her hair, and you go, oh yeah. And then you see he was framed by the monsters. He wasn't killing Zeke. He just watched it.
Yeah.
And he got framed, so you're going, oh, that's a bit unjust. And then this scene where he's, doesn't shoot the cop and then just immediately, he's got a gun. He could kill the cop. He's got all the ammo. Yeah. Kill everyone else. Take the power cells. Whatever.
Yeah, I mean, if he's just a serial killer, like he would just kill the cop, wouldn't he? He would just start killing them.
But
why would he?
There's clearly more to his motivation, which is what made you start to like him.
Yeah, and so then after that deal, we sort of have it's not quite a montage, but we sort of have, she starts working on the plane, the plane starts operating, she's doing tests and those sorts of things. They get that machine running with the water, and they actually have water for the first time.
Yeah.
She also, Fry, sees a, was it like a solar system model?
Astrolabe or I don't know what they call these things.
I don't know what they call it.
A little mechanical model of
the planet they're on, kind system, of thing. Yeah. They're sort of discovering that these people were geologists, and they sort of they left stuff behind, and so there's kind of it's not a happy la moment, but it is like they're having a bit of a win, I guess, in the environment.
This is the
one win,
building a solution sort of mode where you can see, okay, they've got a plan. And as the audience, it means that you can see that this movie has a direction.
Yeah,
it's from this point up to this point. There's sort of the exploration. They weren't really sure. And from this point, you go, okay, now they just have to, they've got some water and things. They've just got to get themselves a bit of supplies together.
Yeah,
onto
get
the ship,
plane going.
Get the power cells to the plane.
Yeah,
and they're golden.
Yeah. So
also, as the audience, it's not going to be that easy. But now you know the direction they're headed. You know what the goal is.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of movies out there which fail to strongly enough tell you what the goal is. Yeah. And so you're kind of wondering why people are doing things. But this one, this one you knew.
And again, like I know we haven't kind of talked about all the characters in depth or anything, but you and I have spoken about this on many films where, you know, and Predator did it so well that here's this team of commandos and they all had their individual quirks, they all had relationships. This film, again, you know, you've chucked a bunch of characters in a room, you know, onto this planet. They're stuck together. How are they going to work together? You know, what are they going to do well, not well? But I think this film did it right again, you know, because they weren't a team. They all had reasons to be on that ship, you know, and then they all had strengths and weaknesses, blah, blah, blah. So it did work in this film, I think, again, like it was a good mix of characters. Yeah. You know, because they sort of all had that complexity they all had their, you know, strengths and weaknesses, and that shone really quickly, you know?
Yeah, I think this is actually one of those secret gems that were missed by the sequel makers.
Yeah.
The fact that the strength of this movie is not in the special effects, it's not in the cutting necessarily, or even some of the dialogue, but rather the fact that you build this scene or this dynamic between the characters, because we get at this point here, Riddick comes on board the ship, and there's kind of a tense moment of almost intimidation where he's sussing stuff out and he's looking, and I believe she'd been told, the cop had told her that Riddick was a pilot and had killed, you know, a pilot of the transport ship and stolen the transport ship. That's how he escaped. So there's this moment just after that, he pops on board
with Fry
and basically sort of looks her over and she's like closing stuff off to hide,
trying to hide some information.
But he's seeing like the diagnostics running and he's going, okay. And there's a tense moment there where you're wondering, okay, is this where he snaps her neck or has he let it continue? And then he starts to leave, and I think he just sort of says over his shoulder, says, you know, ask your friend, Johnson, ask your friend Johnson why he's shaking, and ask him why your friend had to die in so much pain. And
why he wants to keep me, something like that.
I think. Why, you know, I'm worth far more alive than
that's
dead.
it. That's what it is. It's that classic kind of line.
And then he walks off, you know.
So he hasn't killed her. You know. It was a good scene, that scene, because the way they did it as well is she sort of scurries around hiding information, but he's behind her the whole time, you know, so he has the power over her, you know, and he's a much bigger man as well anyway, but, you know, like it's quite overtly, you know, like he's behind her.
He's got the drop on her.
If he really wanted to, and it's almost like she's testing that a little bit as well, I think, you know.
Yeah, it kind of pushes him a little.
Pushes it a little bit, and we're pushed and he pushes her back, but doesn't attack. So again, it's, as you said earlier, it's pretty much... because he's set up as such a bad guy at the start of the film. We, as an audience, are told he's a bad guy, murderer, blah, blah, blah. And we don't see much about it. So he lurks in the shadows and that. We think he's the bad guy. So once he does start appearing in the film properly, the whole time he's basically pushing us a little bit, isn't he? As an audience, like, am I a bad guy?
And we
can
see
you really believe I'm a bad guy?
We can see he's quite calculating, considered, and, you know, he sees this and he goes, oh, yeah, okay, I'm thinking about these things. And then he tosses this bit of information to her, you know, a bit of political intrigue, basically. So you've got to think, when he killed these people that he went to prison for, you're starting to think there must have been a reason.
There was this wasn't more going on.
This wasn't just some rando murderer. You know, something's going on. So he probably does deserve to be in prison, but...
Yeah. But maybe he's not such a...
But maybe he's just made some bad choices, got stuck in some bad situations. That's what you're thinking. But yeah, so she confronts Johnson.
Yeah.
Who has just dropped or stuck a needle in his eye, tear duct or something dreadful. Is a morphine addict. Yeah. It doesn't call it morphine necessarily.
No.
Or maybe he does say morphine. He does say morphine. I can't remember if he does. I get the impression it's morphine.
Yeah.
And he's got like this box of ammo, but it's actually not ammo. It's little ampules of his drug of choice.
Yeah, and he kind of jokes it off as a good addict, which is like, a bit of caffeine in the morning kind of thing.
Yeah, you have your coffee in the morning.
Yeah, I'm having mine morning and night sort of thing. So he's a druggie. And in this bit, it's also revealed that he's not a cop and that he's a bounty hunter.
He's a drug-addicted bounty hunter.
Yeah.
it's implied that he's going for Riddick's bounty because it'll keep him in drugs.
Yeah, like he'll pay for his drugs.
And I think she asks you, what do you have that's so great in your life?
Yeah.
Your next hit.
Yes. Yeah.
And he doesn't have a comeback to that.
No.
Because I think maybe he thinks that might be a bit true.
Yeah. And again, here there's a Blake Schneider scene, Surrey. I think that follows that scene, which is the Pope in the pool. Because what happens is we have one of the little boys kind of goes off investigating the base. And at the same time, Fry and that are kind of, she's kind of telling us information, a lot of exposition, a lot of information has to come forward about, hang on, I saw that that planetarium, whatever the bloody things those are called, and there's something, and these were miners, and she's sort of putting the pieces of puzzles.
And Riddick says, "Do you really think they left their coats,
do you
their
think
clothes
they,
on the hooks,
like,
and
would
the
you
photos
leave
on the
everything
walls?"
here?" Look, on a side note, I did think, but if they discovered the monsters, and let's say there's a mothership, and you were like, fuck me, get down here, we're going to get off. Like, yeah, you would leave things on, know. So I did sort of think, well, maybe, but there's a great moment here because the boy we're kind of intercut between the adults all discussing this and the boy's investigating and, he's opening doors and all this sort of stuff. And he comes across this like massive group of the creatures, but they're little baby ones, and they're like bats really. And he's kind of sent into a cupboard with the bats, I think.
Which has some bigger ones or something.
Which has some bigger ones because he gets in there and he's like, and he's attacked. Before that, Fry says she's discovered the core rings that the miners were looking at, and it was 22 years ago.
Yes.
And so it's kind of like...
Conveniently.
Conveniently 22 years ago. And then she goes back to the planetarium and she circles around and she circles back to 22 years, and it happens to be an eclipse where the planet, which is kind of a bit like Saturn, with rings and that, it's going to be blocking them from the three suns that are in the solar system.
There was a moon that would cover one side, and this big planet would block.
But basically, it will mean that they will be then in pitch black.
They'll be in pitch black.
So happens that they're crash landed on this planet.
There's a bit of a course set up. These rings are 22 years old.
Yeah,
and it's like, and that's like that's our horror trope too, isn't it? It's like, it was 13 years ago on this very night.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
where it was rainy and stormy, thunderclap in the background.
Yeah, that's right.
And happy, and so it's.
Because I even automatically you're thinking, you guys have crash landed on this planet exactly at the time that an eclipse is going to happen. 22 does it happen every 22 years? Okay, it happens every 22 years. And you've happened to crash there the moment it's about to happen.
Well, the interesting thing about that, I think, though...
But then,
because I was wondering, it could have been, every 6 months this happens.
Yeah.
In which case, odds are up high. It could be every 2 weeks.
But even, I suppose when you think about every 22 years, it actually is pretty reoccurring, isn't it? Like,
in astronomical terms, but the significance, the scientific significance of 22 years... the 22 is not particularly significant, but rather you saw the complex movement of these three suns and this planet. It meant it was a very slow retrograde of that planet, which meant that once they did come into eclipse, it would still be a very slow, it could be days or weeks long eclipse. Whereas the moon and the Earth, we've got like a 24-hour cycle. The moon orbits around us every 28 days or whatever it is. And the eclipse happens.
Whereas this is much slower,
rarely.
From that model.
Whereas this takes 22 years for this alignment to occur, and the alignment stays in alignment for some time.
A little while, yeah.
As the Imam says, he says, it would be lasting darkness. That was my Imam impersonation.
Yeah. So it kind of leads, they've discovered this. So they discover the boy, they discover the bats, or the baby alien things, and they also discover the miners' skeleton.
Yeah, they find the core in the room. It's like there's a pit going down.
They sort of said, they probably hid in here thinking it was the safest room, but obviously they still got eaten.
Yeah, they're waiting, because someone says, let's just wait this out.
Yeah.
How long could it last?
So it's a good midpoint of the movie, because it's actually right on the 50% point of this movie is basically they've realised all this. And it's panic stations because it's like, we need to get the hell off.
Well, it's great because you've got their goal, which is charge up their ship and fly off. And if nothing else happened, that's easy. Now you got a time clock.
Yeah, now it's happening now.
Now it's
eclipse is about to happen.
You got to race against the clock. You don't know how long until this eclipse happens. So they go get their solar-powered car, which is a nice touch. And it plays off this dark and light. And as I said, I think the true joy of this movie, the bit that really actually speaks to you, even if you're not aware of it, is the fact that they've got a very heavy psychological motif going through here.
Yeah, they do.
And now you've got, light. You've got 22 years of bright light, and it never sets. And the sun's never set. In fact, there's that nice scene where they watch, it's setting. Oh, at least we get some relief. And and the other one rises, and you go, oh, shit, really? Yeah. So you got this, 22 years, and then you've got dark. And when the dark comes, it's a shitstorm. Yeah. And that's sort of this mirror of, I guess, of psychology and mental health. And they jump on their solar-powered car, which is going to help them. And that as well is sort of a bit of a theme there of it's a solar-powered car. And, of course, they get back to their crash ship and they load everything on there. And then the solar cells die because the eclipse comes and they find themselves in darkness.
Yeah, it's a beautiful shot. Like, you see the rings. The rings of that Saturn planet.
Yeah, it's
and
a nice
they all sort
visualization.
of, they really quickly, it's gone, they were at panic stations because they knew that they didn't have long, but all of a sudden now it's like the sun starts flickering and those rings, I really liked that.
Yeah,
I thought that was cool special effects, and they played with the light again, which
I'm wondering if you might say this is similar to the scene where Fry is crawling in.
Yeah.
You've got this beauty versus the horror that's coming.
Yeah.
You're going, that's a really nice eclipse.
Is.
Like,
but
if there wasn't an alien monster's going to come kill us, that would actually be quite spectacular. People would come here. Tourists would come here every 22 years.
They would for
the opportunity to see this. They go, that's really nice.
You would just need some.
Now getting the armored tank.
Yeah, that's right. You would just need something that's like a glass, like a cage dive in for great white sharks.
Yes.
You need something that's going to protect you. But there is a nice moment there, and then at the same time there's the it's great, impending doom, darkness is coming.
The other little
reminds you of those sort of vampire films, like where the sun sets.
In fact, it even looked like the bats coming out of the cave.
Yeah, well, it did, didn't it? Yeah.
There's a beautiful thing, and again, I'd love to be able to talk to the directors, writers on this, because the solar powered car didn't just have solar panels; it had like this dome with this little spinny thing in it, and as the sunlight faded, this thing slowed down. So you've got this visual of solar power. When these things are spinning, and it's the same technology in all these other bits and pieces. And they found a robot toy or something. Yeah, all these bits and pieces. And so as Jack's polishing the dome to try and get as much sun in there as possible, and it just winds down and stops. So you can visually see, as the audience, they're not getting any more solar power. Their hope has just died. Yeah. And that was it's this nice connection there. And it's those sort of features that I think, there are some rough cuts in this. I've got to say the Zeke being pulled in the cave was a bit 80s retro style.
Yeah, it was.
And there's a few other scenes that are kind of a bit rough, and I'm watching it the other night, I was going, okay, that seemed a bit like unplanned maybe. Like they weren't sure and they just tried to cut it as best they could. But there's these details like the fact they have these solar panels which actually have moving parts. I think slowed and stopped, and you go, it's really effective.
I mean, I agree with what you're saying with the rushness, but I think they deliberately did that. I think it was something
sure, there was
that editing was a deliberate choice. That's what I'm saying. Like it wasn't so much.
There's one scene in particular where it gave me such a rush of nostalgia. And it comes later on when Riddick and Johnson face off and they're about to fight. And you got this sudden, almost strobe cut between Riddick's eyes and Johnson's eyes. Riddick's eyes, Johnson's eyes. It went and it's like, that reminded me of like these movies like American Ninja and some of these other 80s sort of action films. And I'm not sure, like, it didn't quite go far enough to sort of make me think they're paying homage, but it definitely used that effect. But anyway, so they get stuck. They go hide in it's like a shipping container type of thing. Yeah. The bats are coming, and Riddick and the last prospector woman, whose name I can't remember, the other Australian woman. they come running back and jump to the ground. And
as these bats
things
fly
swoop over top of them. And then it's sort of silent, and Riddick is sitting there, he's not moving, and the woman's not moving.
And the others say, don't move, don't move,
hold still.
There's more coming.
And Riddick's just sitting there, and the woman starts moving, and you can almost see Riddick sort of going, no, don't. But he's not moving, he just... And she gets...
She makes a run for it,
runs for it, and she gets slaughtered. She gets ripped apart.
Ripped apart in the air.
Torn in half, and her corpse is displayed past everyone, which is a wonderful bit of shock.
And then he just stands up because they've all gone.
Yeah, no, they've got their feed, and he gets up and walks in, and you can see
everyone's a bit ticked off.
Everyone's a bit resentful.
Yeah,
that
they were.
He survived.
They were,
which I thought was a bit unfair, and I think maybe it plays in the audience, plays up the fact so the audience actually likes Riddick more.
Well,
He's a bit more sympathetic to him because
like,
why are you pissed off at him?
Yeah.
She's the one who panicked. He just held his cool. So anyway.
But it's a bit of that deservability of who should... back to Fry's real dilemma, because she was killing the others to save herself. You know, like, and again, that's a similar situation. Everyone's judging Riddick like, you're not as valuable as her because you're a murderer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so it's back to that question, isn't it? The thematic question of the film.
Yeah, and again, I think that's where the strength of this film lies. And so they lock themselves in this container. There's a bit of a tense moment there, and they decide that light... They need as much light as they can. They have to make a break for it. Oh no, we should just wait it out. I think
creatures are descending.
Yeah,
there's like sound. There's one of them puts a spike through the door. Those sort of things.
They have a bit of a stoush there, and another one of the Imam's boys gets killed.
Yep. But again, in the moment, it's very similar again, isn't it? Because Riddick was like
cool.
Riddick's standing there going, "Don't move."
Yeah.
And he's like just leaning in and out of the shadow.
Oh, that is the best, one of the best scenes there, because he's sort of...
he sees a creature.
Yeah, the boy comes up and says, and then Riddick just appears out of the shadow. It's such a beautiful shot, that the way that the light just cuts across him.
Yeah.
And he doesn't move, and he's just... I can't remember exactly what he says, but it's like,
I think it says something like, what an unfortunate moment to turn up, or...
Yeah, what an unfortunate situation or something.
Yeah.
And then he just kind of...
It was a good line.
And then he just... leans back, disappears back into the shadow, like totally disappears.
Yeah.
And you can see that he's a scary person in the power of his knowledge. He hasn't harmed the kid, and the kid then panics and freaks out and runs.
Moves,
and gets killed. And again, Riddick sort of comes out, and you can almost sort of see him. He's like, oh,
what? I couldn't.
Why? What? Come on.
Yeah,
he's not happy about it,
but he's very cool with, because the others are like, you're an arsehole, and he's like, what? Like, he's the idiot. Like, he shouldn't have run. I didn't run.
Yeah, I mean, you could sort of say, well, maybe Riddick could have like
stopped him,
dragged him back, or something. But Riddick at this point is still a bit 50-50 on these people. He's still a bit sort of you deserve to live if you try.
Yes.
I'm not here to ensure your survival. I'm here to survive.
The one thing in this moment the group have learnt about is the light. Not only do they not like the light, but the light hurts them.
Yes.
So there's a shot like they've got the torch, and it's like burning the creature's skin.
Yes.
So
because one of them gets shot by the cop, I think.
Yeah, I think so. And there's sort of a dead one, and they put the light on it, and it's bubbling away because obviously UV or whatever type of light is killing them.
Something.
Yeah. The light spectrum is killing them. So, which then makes a lot of sense, because I guess the whole thing is this planet, if every 22 years it goes into some sort of darkness for a month, that's when these creatures come out and have some sort of big orgy on everything. And then they're forced to... Not that there seems to be
anything left, but...
No, but then they turn on each other, don't they? Yeah. So the creatures literally eat each other, and I suppose it's a bit of survival of the fittest for the next 22 years.
Yeah.
I presume, But
anyway, you got to think maybe they're going to some sort of hibernation or something.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
But so they gather up all the light they can, and they sort of have like these light tubes, and they've got like this weird generator thing with light tubes sticking out of it. And they wrap it around themselves, and they're dragging this sled with the remaining cells.
And Fry has made this decision, because that was the thing. Fry and the bounty hunter, they had that standoff, like he's saying, we should stay and sit this out, because eclipses only last so long. And she's like, no, we should go forth with the plan. Like, get the power cells.
I think they sort of say, I think someone else had that same idea in the core room.
Yes, they do. But as it goes on, they do. Then she debates that why did we come? And they go back. They head back around again, don't they? So
well, let's get there. So anyway. they take this slate along, and there's clearly the flying things. We get the perspective of the monsters and things. We realize they're being the aura of the light is the only thing shielding them.
Yeah.
And
of course, what happens is one of them wants to break away.
Well, he trips over and his light goes out, or he drops his glasses. Yeah. And he goes to go get them, and he's a little bit too far away, and then
one of them says that great line.
Swings by and like knocks him, and he goes, and he totally freaks out. Yeah. And he just starts crawling away and drags this generator thing, tube light thing smashes. And you got the feeling that tube light thing would probably just last forever. Yeah. Or effectively. Yeah. But he smashed it.
Smashed it.
And there's this beautiful scene where he's in pitch black.
Yep.
And he lights his cigarette, so you've just got this little bit of glow around him. You just see him, and he takes a swig of his whiskey and breathes the fire.
Yeah, and all the creatures are surrounded.
Like a dome of creatures pressed around.
All with their big teeth.
Just the outer limits of this glow of this light.
And he says,
I was supposed to die in France. Yes.
And do you know what his name was? Paris. His name was Paris.
God.
I know, I've only seen that on IMDb today. But that was a great line. I liked that. Because he was the antique dealer. He was all into wine and, so it was a great line for that character.
Yeah, he was sort of a bit prissy.
I wrote it down. It was a good line.
A bit posh, but it was a great scene. In fact, they used that in the trailer. Or just that little bit where he breathes the fire and there's just monsters.
Of course.
You just get that creeping feeling of like, he's just surrounded. He's destroyed.
So they creep on. The team keep going. They keep going.
They're using now just their little alcohol.
Yeah, they're using it so the creatures are kind of closer to them, and you're getting that in that whole sequence. You're getting that feeling that they're surrounded, and that the creatures are there. And we do have a few shots of Riddick with his eyes, and he keeps looking, and you can see all the creatures. Whereas, of course, the rest of the time you can't kind of see them. And Riddick and the cop they start pushing ahead a little bit.
Well, they can cross over their own trail.
Yeah.
And they go, why? We've just crossed our own trail. What have you doing? What's the story? And he says, I've been, there's a lot of them up ahead. I've been trying to come up with an idea of how we're going to get past them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's this argument about, well, we should have stayed. And then she goes, oh, well, no, we can't do it. We've got to go. And blah, 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 blah.
And so Riddick and the cop, but they kind of creep ahead, and because the others are like, what are they talking about? You're sort of getting that they're having a discussion. And then Fry says, hold back a bit, hold back, let them kind of go up. She's sensing something. And we are too as an audience. Yeah, Riddick is up to something. And
we see their discussion.
The cop or the bounty hunter is basically saying, let's use them as bait.
Yeah, let's use the little girl.
Let's use
Jack, the little girl, as bait. Drag her body behind us.
Yeah.
To give them something to chew on. And Riddick is like, you tell me that this is really interesting. Yeah.
This is a great idea.
How about we use you?
Yeah.
And then they have
how about we use something a bit chunkier? I think bigger. I think that we need a bigger bit of.
And this was another moment where you go, okay, Riddick's actually got a bit of morality. Yeah. He's kind of like, I'm not going to go killing some little girl.
Like a little girl, yeah.
In fact, it's not even so much that. It's like, I'm not going to kill one of them to use as bait. I don't particularly care about them all that much.
Yeah, but I'm not going to do that.
I'm not going to do anything.
I'm not sinking that low, bro.
Yeah, I don't need to do that to survive, so I'm not going to do it.
No.
But
whereas the cop was
let's get rid of these.
There's a clear distinction, wasn't it? Good and bad, which was
That's
great.
where you're starting to see that turnaround there. And that I also sort of got a feeling that's where we're seeing Riddick's low opinion of humanity being confirmed. It's like, well, this is what I've come to expect. This is the people that get the authority and are so-called respectable. This is what we get out of them. Is let's start cannibalizing our own people.
Yeah, that's right. Again, I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? Because it's the same thematic question again of Fry. I let go of stuff the passengers it's better that we survive as the captains. And here it's the same, isn't it? Like the bounty hunter's kind of saying, well, sacrifice the little girl so that the rest of us live. we're more important. Again, that is the ongoing question. And Riddick, I guess when you really think about Riddick as well, his character is seen as the bottom of the pile as well.
Yeah.
You know, he's in this bit, he's needed because he's carrying, he's helping the power cells.
You're kind of wondering this whole time of like, really, how is this going to end when they get to the ship and it's all powered up and they're all in there? Really, are they just going to be like happy families now? And is it?
Yeah.
So you know that something is going to evolve here.
So then, because of that, the cop suggesting that, Rick saying, no, you can be the bait. Then they have that fight, the eye shot.
Yeah.
And Riddick succeeds in
slashes his back open.
Yeah.
And the cop ends up getting dragged away by monsters.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Riddick's hands are clean on that. He only defended himself as much as he had to. And this is again one of these theme things and I find it sort of chickens out a bit, I guess, but it plays off our psychology a bit because
it does.
It's the same as you always get the hero can't shoot first.
Yes.
You know, he can only be there's a monster outside the Riddick wanders back to the other people.
Yeah.
And they go, what happened? You know, that was terrible. Because they didn't quite know what was going on there. They just, something happened. And
because when the fight happened, they kind of took off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
he appears.
Is that wonderful thing where Jack's having, you know, a bit of an emotional moment.
Yeah.
And Riddick just says, don't you dare cry for her. I can't talk like Riddick. If I could, that's all my podcast would be. Don't you dare cry for him.
Well, you get paid a lot more money, Sally, and doing the voiceover of films.
I mean, so don't you dare cry for him. Don't you dare.
Don't you dare cry. He was going to kill you, you know?
Yeah, and that for me, I remember watching that was very powerful. It's just like, and I think this is where a lot of us, particularly us teenage nerds who are watching this, thinking, you know, Riddick's this sort of tortured hero now.
Yeah, that's right.
You can see he's like, you know, he's not going to tell the story because he could have said he wanted to like murder the little girl and drag her body around. What do you think he's going to do when we got to the ship? He would have killed you lot and tried to convince me to pilot the ship and then hand me in as bounty.
Yeah.
Like this, but he doesn't explain any of that and try to get them on his side. He's just like, and for the whole thing, he's always a bit terse about this. He's just like, don't you dare cry. And that, I think that really, and that sort of line there was one of the reasons I think that this was surprisingly popular because it really speaks to you. You go, oh, he didn't tell, you know, he's so cool.
Yeah.
Oh, he's so tortured. He's so cool. Is very good. And so they continue on, don't they?
They do. And
now, well, basically, I think the idea is that big gang were now distracted
by him.
A body.
So they've pushed ahead, but what starts to happen here then is the creatures start killing each other.
Yeah, they're getting rained on by blue blood.
They're literally getting rained on by blood and by bodies as well. Like they're falling and. Riddick is carrying all the power cells. You know, this is where he gets to flex his big muscles.
Oh, and it starts raining.
So their torches go out.
Which is a great touch because it's like boiling hot desert. They can't wait for darkness. Oh, darkness comes. Oh, now the monsters are okay, so now we need light. And like I said, and now we get the rain. Now we get water.
So it's the good old throw everything at your characters. Yes. You know, that dying moment. And Riddick kind of pushes ahead, doesn't he? Kind of like there's a bit of a gap now between them.
Yeah, he's really very determined to keep going.
Very determined, yeah.
He gets there and then he stops and he's looking over the ridge.
Yes.
And Fry comes and says, "What's up?" And he says, "We're not going to make it."
Yeah, we're not going to make it.
And considering he stopped earlier and and there was like all this fighting and stuff going on, so they go and chuck him in a cave. Yeah, go in the cave.
Oh no, sorry. Just before you get to that, there was a moment where one of those creatures attacks the girl, and he grabs it.
Yes.
And he like rips it. You know what I mean? Like he fights it. He's holding his big muscles. And he like rips it apart. And the girl's like, the little girl's like, oh my god. And he says the line. They did not know who they were fucking with.
Yeah, he did not know who was fucking.
Sorry, I had to do that.
I know that was really good.
That's one of those lines that I was saying before, like we talked about with Predator.
And
like,
it adds to Riddick's character. As you go, because he just saved someone.
He did, yeah. He saved the girl.
It was reluctant.
Yeah.
He saw it and went, oh, okay, shit, okay, I can't be leaving the kid to someone else maybe, but. Chuck him in a cave.
Yeah, chucks him in the cave. I'll come back for you.
Yeah, I'll come back for you. And puts him in the cave.
Well, he doesn't actually say he'll come back. He just says, stay here.
Yeah, and then he rolls a boulder in front of it.
Yeah,
which is
and they all kind of like go,
nope.
Why did he put the boulder over the cave?
Yeah, and so he marches on and gets to the spaceship, and
which makes you think, he's saying, there was all these creatures over the ridge.
Yeah, we're not going to make it, but in reality, he
wanted to get.
He was calculating because again, it's like, how does this end well? He's looking, how does this end well for me?
Yeah.
At the moment, I get to the ship, I'm just the prisoner again.
I'm back to the prisoner.
And I don't, so he is nice enough that he goes, well, maybe he's thinking, well, I can't just murder them all.
No.
Physically, he'd be capable of it.
Yeah.
I don't think any of those people who were able, none of them had any real weapons.
No.
And he did. And plus he's a very experienced fighter.
Yeah.
It's been clearly indicated. So he starts powering up the ship and getting it all prepped, and it's pouring down rain, and he's just taking his time, doing his bits and pieces. And
they're in the cave.
Back in the cave, they're all their lights sputter out, and it's the darkest moment. And they're like, "Well, fuck, he's not." They realize he's doesn't seem to be coming back.
Not coming back,
and we don't have any light.
Yeah.
But then the glowworms they spot, and so they fill the bottles with all the glowworms. And Fry says, "I'm going out, and I'll help him, and then we'll come back for you."
Yeah.
And again, she's now fully taking this leadership responsibility.
Yeah.
I'm going to see the Imam and this one last kid and this girl, Jack. I want to see them home.
Yeah.
So she pushes her way out and charges off and confronts Riddick.
Yeah.
On the open, he opens up the thing and he stands on the bay, and he's out of the rain and he's looking confident and calm.
Yeah.
She's in the rain looking pathetic and miserable.
Yeah.
And indeed, she's having a problem because he just says, you can't go back.
Don't go back.
Just come in here.
Yeah.
It's easy. We'll go.
Yeah, well, he proposes, come with me.
Yeah, come with me. It'll be easy. And this is my favourite scene of the entire film because it draws... This is the turning point of this theme that's been going of guilt and responsibility and redemption and dark and light and all the rest of it, where he's sitting there just saying, it's so easy, just come take my hand. Just the same as for her, it's just so easy, just eject them all.
Yeah.
And so easy, just take my drugs.
Yeah.
It's, we'll just kill the little girl and, and she just totally loses it, and she collapses and she's weeping and she's weak, and
he kind of just starts pulling her onto the ship.
This could have been an overacted moment, but it really felt as if she had just basically reached this breaking point, this emotional breaking point where she wanted to go with him.
Yeah,
and she could feel it, and she's sort of creeping forward, going, okay, like
makes sense. I'm going to survive.
And your audience is there going, you can't leave. Maybe you could leave the Imam. He's kind of a bit... I got the feeling he's a bit foolish. Overly optimistic, I should say.
But what about the girl? Come.
But Jack and the other little kid, I mean, come on. And it was just this beautiful thing. And you can see it's representative of what is going on in Riddick. Because, again, Riddick, and we, in this film, the audience, we are Riddick.
Yeah.
We're not Fry. We thought we were Fry. We thought we were the cop. But no, it turns out we're actually Riddick. That's the point of view we are. And he's going... This is what I've come to expect. The cop turns on them. She's just going to turn on them. She wanted to eject us all.
Yeah.
This is, and I left them in the cave.
Yeah.
This is humanity. This is the way the world works.
Yeah.
And so he's out. And when she refuses and pushes him out into the mud, and they sort of roll.
Well, she attacks him. She grabs him. Yeah.
And he says, well, you'd die for them?
Yeah.
And she finally admitted in her, and it's truthful because she's at her end.
Yeah,
she doesn't have any reserves left to lie. She says, yes, I would die for them. And he goes, oh, okay. And that again, like I said, that culmination of that scene is we are Riddick, and we go, oh.
Yeah.
Humanity's kind of, there actually is something here. And sure enough, they go back, open up the cave, drag everyone along, but...
The son gets taken.
The kid gets taken,
Yeah. Up the mountain.
Well, actually, I like that line when they open up the cave.
Yeah.
Because Riddick had asked the Imam, "Where's your God?"
Yeah.
And he says, "This is my God." And I was thinking, he's a bit late to the party, fella. He could have turned up a few 10 minutes back or so.
Yeah.
But anyway, So Riddick goes running off. They hear the cry, and so Riddick goes running off to rescue. And this is out of character for Riddick, because he's like, as I said, he had that turning point where she said that she would die for them. Like, so it's like she's changed.
Yep.
Or she has grown. She's come to realize her place.
Yeah.
And he turns around and he runs in to save this. I can't remember which one it was. It was the Imam's boy, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
because the others, they then got back to the ship.
Yeah,
the three of them.
They managed to get the Imam's boy rescued, right?
No.
I really thought it was the Imam, the boy, and Jack.
No,
anyway,
the boy, his son is dragged up, like he's gone.
Oh, okay.
And then Riddick, they go back for them, and when they're coming back, Riddick kind of gets
cornered.
One jumps in front.
Yeah.
And the rest of them go to the ships, and then he's kind of cornered.
Yeah.
He doesn't go back for the boy. The boy's just ripped up the mountain. Yeah, and then he does that. Earlier, there was a little thing with the skeleton where he kind of was like, oh, there's a blind spot. Yeah. So he kind of stands there, and we have this, like, because he's got his vision, he does a bit of a dance, a bit of a boogie with the creature, and the creature, we see from the creature's point of view, can't see him. And then of course, one then lands behind him.
Just as that one who can't see it goes, sort of like, nothing here, I'll go.
Yeah.
Starts to turn away, and you're going, yes.
Yeah.
One lands down behind, and this other one goes, ooh.
Yeah.
You want to fight you, mate? And so
and we see the vision like of that creature again. Like he sees a flash of Riddick, the creature, flash of Riddick, the creature, and of course then we kind of go back to Fry and that they're actually saying, Imran and that saying, well, come on, let's get out of here, let's leave him. So it's the same thing again, isn't it? It's like, well, let's leave him now, and she goes, so she starts running back to Riddick.
Riddick there with his knife slashes the guts out of one of the critters.
Yeah.
And then
you don't see the whole thing, but you see him slash one of them, but not the whole thing. Yeah.
And then he's confronted by the other one, and then she.
Then when she rocks up, he's bleeding pretty badly, and so she helps him, and they kind of have a little nice moment.
Yeah, that moment where he realizes that she's actually willing to die for him too.
She's willing to die for him too. And then, of course, which this is just, I reckon, fantastic, is she's then sliced and just zoomed up into the sky.
Yeah, off she goes. And he says,
which was really
not
good.
For me. which as I said, this is that scene from where she's crying and, trying to refuse but can't refuse his offer to just leave, all the way up to this point here where Riddick's basically, that's his epiphany. That's fine. That's his last straw, where it's like, someone was willing to die for me, and they did. She died, and now I've got this chance. I've got the responsibility, and I'm going to take it.
Yeah.
And this is why Pitch Black is one of my favorite movies, and I think this is why it did so well in the box office, and why they tried to do 2 sequels, and why those sequels are not as good. And in fact, nobody talks about the sequels because they didn't realize the whole Pitch Black was not a science fiction movie. It wasn't a horror movie. I mean, it was those things, of course. But what was really of note in this was an almost spiritual, psychological journey of growth and learning, this wisdom of from the start. We've got, as I said, we get introduced being told, the reptile brain is still alive. That's why I'm awake, and that's why we're told, deep down inside, we're talking about core, so emotions, and it's this growth and vision, like I said, of inside out, where we're seeing these people play out these different aspects of very strong emotions, and these sort of betrayals and the lies that surround us, and how people can be two-faced. But then at the end, we're showing that there's this redemption. Is that, yes, but despite all of that, we are capable of rising up and being much greater than ourselves, and helping and being heroes. And so Riddick, who started with, I remember all the way up to where he just about takes her, shivs her but cuts her hair. When I was watching, I was thinking, okay, he's going to be one of the major bad guys in this film. Like it's going to be a bit of a cat and mouse, and then the monsters are going to make it work, are going to be the escalation. But it wasn't. He is actually the demonstration of he was the crux. He was the vision or the observer of all of these confrontations and these pivotal moments, all the way up to this very last moment where someone sacrifices themselves for other people, but then sacrifices herself for him. And as the audience, we've been on this bit of a roller coaster, with the thrills and fear and all of it. And you get struck with that and you go, oh, this is so, it's this beautiful night and, I don't know, redemption story. It's wonderful. And that's what the actual story is in Pitch Black.
Yeah.
Not some monsters eating people. Although I do like a bit of that action. And so when they did the sequels, where could they go that they did not come back to
that essence,
some sort of journey, this psychic journey. And if they'd done that, then the sequels would have won. I don't know how they would have done that, but and before we started recording this, we were talking about Highlander. Highlander had this similar effect. The Highlander, the first movie, if you look at it as a bit of an action movie, it had a good soundtrack. The dialogue was kind of a bit awkward in places. The special effects, it's an okay movie, but it has this underlying sort of romance of an immortal.
Yeah.
And the pain he's had and the triumphs and the friends
what that means.
And all these sorts of bits and pieces. That's the story, and that's what people fell in love with. And so when they made the sequel to that, they just threw more sword fights, more flashing bits of lightning, and you kind of, this is the window dressing. We want the main event. And so, and this one here, and that scene there, I think, so I just cut straight to best scene. That's my best scene, is that end sequence.
So then the film finishes, basically, he starts the plane and he turns it off. So the creatures have kind of descended upon them and they're all going, why aren't we going? Why aren't we going? And he's like, wait a minute. And then he
can't go without saying goodbye.
Yeah. And then he fires up the engine. So it just blows a shitload of them away. And
then he just smashes through them.
Hysterically, smashes through them like windscreen wiper mosquitoes, and they go into space and he kind of ponders his future and they say, well, what the girl says, what happens next? And he's like, well, Riddick died on that planet, doesn't he? Yeah. And that's very metaphoric and everything you're saying.
That's all that continues.
It's like, I'm leaving behind that character. I'm moving on to something else.
It just would have been so good if the sequel they'd managed to come up with a sequel that somehow carried that on, and you could imagine there'd have to be some other confrontation, like he'd have to be tempted back into some sort of criminality, and then maybe make up for the original issues that he got imprisoned for, and I don't know. Yeah,
that's right. But anyway, so that brings us to the end. Roll credits. Yeah, so it's a great little sci-fi. As you've been talking about, a lot of metaphoric deepness to it. So you really liked that scene in particular at the end there.
Yeah, that last bit that's what sealed the deal for me. Like there was sort of some rough dialogue here and there, and some of the scenes and cuts were again not as slick. We watched Oblivion the other week.
Yeah.
And Oblivion was, as you said, that was just scene for scene, dialogue line for line, perfect. Whether you like the movie or not, you can't fault its execution. This one here, you sort of go, there's bits, it's rough edges. It was a bit cheap in places where they could have had a bit more budget. But then I think that would they have lost the heart and soul, which is at by the end of this movie, I remember leaving that cinema with my friends, and we were just all just like trying to figure out why we loved it so much. Yeah. What was it that made me go out and buy the DVD as soon as it was available and watch it again? And it's taken time, but I think I've explained what it was. It was that personal journey where we felt we were being exposed to these ideas, and we all, you sort of walk away with a bit of a moral tale, which was a bit nice.
I think, and it's more than, I loved at the start the moments of revealing Riddick. Like I really liked that. It was pretty cool that they kept him in the dark for so long. Like I think that was a really cool sort of plot, again, as an audience where we don't know him. We don't know much about him. We learn so much about the other characters. The things we're learning about him is kind of through those other characters, and it's and also how he's shot is very mysterious. He's got the ball, he's got the goggles. That's the thing. Empathy on screen in photography, it's all about the eyeballs. If you don't see people's eyeballs, you're not having that empathy with them, you know, and we can go deep into the male gaze and stuff with females and things like.
In Star Wars, it was so acceptable to shoot so many stormtroopers.
Yeah, because you don't see their face.
I remember as a kid wondering if they were robots.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because they're just a uniformed person. It doesn't matter, right?
Faceless, yeah.
Yeah, so in here as well, Riddick's got the goggles. You don't see his eyes. He's in the dark. You only see bits and bobs of him. He's also up to mischievous things. We keep getting told he's a bad guy. Like, they're kind of setting him up as the bad guy, and we're not at all empathetic. So I liked how they did that. I thought that was really clever.
Hey, how about this part, though? When Fry is crawling into the tunnels and the monsters, you know, we sort of get cuts back to Riddick chained up with his arms.
Yes.
And he's starting to tense.
Yeah.
And then as the monsters, as that scene with Fry climbing up gets more tight, he's like banging and banging and banging.
Yeah, it's true.
It's like almost like he's linked, you know, his
to
bestial nature. He can sort of and we
sense
get
of prey,
we
predator.
get this feeling throughout that he has kind of a real instinctual vibe to him. He acts thoughtfully, but also he has got this very strong instinct for how things are falling in a very predatory animal sort of a way.
Right,
and that was a great scene there where you sort of got that connection between him and the monsters. That he sort of knew something was happening. You got the feeling like dogs barking before a storm type of thing.
That's right. So I liked that it set up, and then I just thought that kind of, you know, when they were creeping through the darkness and you knew the monsters were surrounding them and they had that tube light and like, I mean, it's a you know, the writers and the filmmaker, like, they've gone to such an effort. It's such a setup, and then this is the payoff, you know, like, and it was tense, and you didn't really, I wasn't sure who was going to go first, and, you know, who's going to get eaten. You know, in that scenario, things are going to go bad. Yeah. But you're kind of thinking, how is it going to go bad? Who's going to get done? How are they going to get done? Is it going to be justified? You know, is it going to be glorious? You know, like, and as an audience, like you know, this is why you have some of these sub characters, is to kill them off in horrific ways to make it more tense for the main characters. So, you know, you knew that Fry's not going to get taken, but you're like, oh, who's going to get taken next? And they escalated that really nicely, and I did appreciate that. Like, I really liked that.
Yeah, it was really nice. Also, how well was this set up with Riddick's eyes?
Yeah,
the fact that he could see in the dark.
Yeah,
it was a very, like, when you look at it, you go, okay, it's a plot device because you know, he can see in the dark, so he can, like Rudolph, the red-nosed reindeer, he will lead the sleigh. So you knew that was kind of possible.
There's a payoff,
but it was also well set up because it's quite natural that he's going to have this you know, eyes because he's in this prison underground forever.
Yeah.
Why he's so healthy and hale without the vitamin D? I don't know. Must be vitamin pills.
Yeah, maybe those solar. What are we talking about? But they don't exist.
Yeah. So he's it's great sort of setup with him with his eyes, and so that he'd be leading this, you know, this unreliable leader. It was great.
So what about the ladder?
The ladder.
Sorry, I'm not going to go through my ladder tonight, but I mean, you've seen this film a few times. You mentioned that, you know, you walked away from it when you first watched it, sort of going, why is this so good? Why do I like it so much? You've rushed out, you've bought the DVD, you've watched it again and again a couple of times over the years. Where does this then now, the viewing of it now, does this come in at the top still for you?
I would put this in, I'd like to put it as even with The Lobster.
Okay.
It's just, I sort of likewise, when I finished watching The Lobster, I came away just going, there was a lot of confrontation in that. There's sort of confronting thoughts and ideas and images and things, but something about it really spoke to me. In fact, I'd probably like to watch The Lobster again just to see what elements of it really resonated or really sort of made me feel something. And this one, likewise, I said, it's some of these effects are a bit dated, some of the camera work, some of the dialogue, but there's a payoff at the end there where even watching it again, this is probably about the fifth or sixth time I've seen it. I got that real sort of, I don't know, that fullness feeling in my body that I had been satisfied by something. Yep. So it was, so up there between The Lobster and I Am Mother, or equal with that. So it's right towards the top there. It's one of my favorite films. Yeah. I do have the DVD still Yeah, I watched it on Netflix though because it's far too lazy to go through my DVDs.
To put a DVD in, yeah. I think for me, it's going to be more towards the bottom. I don't have my list on me right now, but I'm going to put it a little bit lower down. And just because I feel like it has dated. I feel like if I'd never watched it at the time, but I feel like if I had at the movies, I probably in 2000 would have gone, wow, like this is amazing. But to look at it now in 2019, like 19 years later, but just to kind of see some of those things and just sort of think, oh, it's a bit, I found it a bit hard to watch some of those moments. Absolutely. Like it was a bit of a letdown, really, to be honest.
I wonder though how that would be made today, like because if you made the creature effects and some of the other bits and pieces that much better, would it de-emphasize what I think is really cool about the movie?
No, I don't think so. And if you remember as well, Grant Spatore with I Am Mother saying, like he was someone born up in the 80s of that puppetry and that. And so for him, for Mother, it was like he really wanted it to be a puppet, a real thing, And this is my personal thing as well. Like you go back and you look at those Jim Henson things, you do take Alien. And I think sometimes there's definitely a place for CGI. There definitely is. There has to be.
Yeah.
But I think what works, sometimes the filmmakers that go to the effort of mixing the two, so they use a bit of puppetry, they use a bit of CGI or a bit of masking and stuff like that. It works really well. Even has from the Beyond, he sort of talked about the blue screen and not using the blue screen and running, like doing the Stanley Kubrick thing, running the vision in the background versus a blue screen works better. And I think that's the thing. Like it felt, I think if you took this film and made it now and you did a bit of a mix of the two, it would it would last longer into the future.
Yeah.
But there is also, we have to forgive the filmmakers because in 2000 it was such a rage to use the CGI stuff, wasn't it? Like that was the big rage.
Jurassic Park.
Yeah. I mean, that was sort of 92 or 93 or whatever, Jurassic, and that all used CGI most of the time. Sort of kicked
I suppose Terminator 2 was the first, like, lots of CGI.
Yeah,
well, actually, the first majorly CGI movie was The Last Starfighter.
Yeah, right.
84?
Yeah.
83, I want to say. I don't know. Have you seen that one?
I have many years ago now. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember seeing that and thinking, and someone said, it's computer graphics. And I went, whoa, that's incredible. I watched it more recently and I went, yeah, that's clearly computer graphics. Yeah.
And I saw the Steven Spielberg, there's a great documentary about him, I think came out last year or something. And, like with Jurassic Park, it was, the script was there and this guy was working on a computer and he kind of, in LA, and he like called him over and sort of said, he'd been spending 4 months on a computer program, and he had the T-Rex like walking, and Stephen came over and said it was like, we're making a film. Now we're making a film. Like I can see it now. Now that you can do that on the computer, we're doing it, and it was, so Jurassic Park was one of those things that was just like, oh yeah, like now we can do it because of the computer effects and we're going to totally do it because of the computer effects. It's like, so, and in the 90s, there was so many films that all of a sudden it was all CGI, Yeah. And I think now there's probably a bit of a mix.
Yeah. It's coming back a bit now
where
they're realizing it's kind of cool to mix it up a bit.
Yeah. And there's definitely, like, don't get me wrong, computer effects, CGI works really well. I think this film would date better if they'd done a mix.
Yeah, Yeah, and some of the like maybe drone work and some other camera stuff, like you would have been able to get a feel for a really vast spaces, because I think they're trying to indicate that it was a big desert, empty wasteland.
Yeah, because I mean, I guess if you take the brilliance of 2001, like the special effects they used in that and what he did with the models and stuff. Like, I mean, there's moments that you're like, oh, you can tell that's a model. But there's also a lot in that film that you go, wow, this stands the test of time. Like, it's impressive what he's done, in 2001. And there isn't computer effects being used, So it's all more trick photography in that, So it's like, you kind of go, wow, you can use that and it lasts longer than computer graphics. But again, that's just our generation. We get so used to, I mean, you see the stuff that comes out now with computer graphics and you're like, wow, aren't you?
Yeah,
you know, like you're just blown away.
I watch these YouTube shots that my kids watch. And these are just home YouTubers, they're not using major production houses, but they're chucking on, dragons and dinosaurs, which you can just commercially get. And they're not as good, say, as some of the movie stuff, but then again, the budget they're doing it with is basically zero.
Yeah.
And to even suggest that you could do that, like go back to 2000 even, and suggest that you could do like a Jurassic Park dinosaur in your driveway, just with some free downloaded software and a dinosaur model bought for $25 off Blender or something, it'd be crazy.
Yeah.
So anyway, so we've talked about best scenes and we'll talk about ladder. We'll talk a bit about. We're running on time here, but
what about the science? Anything in the science?
I was going to go on about a whole heap of stuff, but I want to just a little bit about solar panels.
Okay,
because there's solar power in this, and it's just
make it quick on the solar panels.
It's amazing that they, as I said, it's a brilliant move to have a moving solar machine, so you could see the effect. So. More importantly, you could see when it stopped, because that was a pivotal one. And the whole reason they showed these moving solar panel things, solar generators, in part was because they wanted to sort of say, look, it's future tech. We can do stuff with it that you can't normally do. But secondly, also, it meant that when the sun disappeared and that car powered down, they didn't just have to say, oh, it's powered down now. Because let's face it, it would just be silent.
It's a visual effect.
You can see the visual effect. It reminds me of The Matrix. Their phones, there's flip phones that, and there's like action. Because how dull would it be if they just had like a Nokia phone, normal. They're just talking to it, and it's just a plastic.
The old
lump.
brick phone, yeah.
But because it sort of slips open, like with a real definite slip and crack, and there was an action involved with making a phone call. They go, I'm going to make a phone call, and you never saw them push it closed again. I don't think it just flicked open. Yeah, so again, movement there. But it's the solar panels, though. Solar panels are, I think they look like one of my science fiction power things. It's just like this. It's a solid state item, so it's just a plank of wood with a bit of glass on it. Basically, sunlight hits it, and we get electricity. I mean, it's beautiful. You see fusion reactors, and I talked about this in Passengers. Fusion reactors, this incredible computer technology and magnets and modeling required to maintain the plasma. At the end of the day, though, that's just making heat to boil a kettle.
Yeah.
That's what we've been doing since the ancient Greeks came up with steam power. And here we are, we're just using a more sophisticated fire.
Yeah.
But solar panels, that's a genuine,
new invention.
Yeah, there's no moving parts. It just sits there and creates electricity. Wonderful. But the amazing thing is, it's such simple technology. The difficult part of them is actually having a facility able to create them, not the actual technology itself. Because the technology is, now if you remember your chemistry, you had some elements with a positive valence and some with a negative. So that would mean, sodium and chlorine. Sodium is strongly positive and chlorine strongly negative. So when they come together, their electron bonds, chlorine is got extra electrons than its energy state would like to maintain. Sodium has a lack of electron states, so it's positive, and they will combine strongly to form an ionic bond, which is sodium chloride, which is table salt. If you go and take yourself silicon, which is a semiconductor, and the semiconductor is nice because it has some peculiar ways it operates with electrons. It's semiconductor, so for example, it'll allow flow in one direction, but it's difficult in the other. When it gets hotter, it becomes it becomes less resistive, which is the opposite of metals. So it's got this sort of interesting policy attributes. If you go then but it's basically chemically inert, glass, sand, silicon. It doesn't do much.
Mm-hmm.
However, if you go, and this is where the hard part is, if you go and create these crystals with some impurities in it, so some boron, which is, I've got to see if I can get this right. Boron is got a lack of electrons, so it's positive. Someone might want to correct me because I'm suddenly thinking maybe not. But anyway, it doesn't matter. You understand. So you got one with boron, one with phosphorus. And those two items are used. Those elements are used because they are easy to dope into silicon. Yeah. And one of them is positive, one is negative. That means that one of them has electron shells which have an extra electron than is stable. They'll sit there, but they want to form bonds. And the other one is lacking electrons. So it's got what they call an electron hole, which is a what do you call it? It's a quasi particle. There's not really a particle. It's a lack of an electron, but it moves this. Yeah, because you imagine you've got a cloud of electrons, and they want to sort of stay away from each other, but there'll be like a patch where an electron could fit, but it doesn't, and that patch moves about.
Yeah, right.
And it can actually swap from atom to atom. So it moves kind of like a particle. It's actually the gap or the shadow of where a particle should be. So you have some crystal with phosphorus, some with boron, and they're held in this nice crystalline lattice so they don't move anywhere. You stick them up close together into a very fine wafer, and they're already somewhat electrically interested in one another because one's positive. There's some with positive, some with negative charge, but without any energy added, they're not going to go anywhere. So along comes the photons. The photons hit and excite the phosphorus, and little electron gets enough energy to move through this semi-resistive, semiconducting silicon onto the boron's hole. That's electricity. So then you put some electric plates on either side, and the electrons get sucked out, and they form a circuit. And that's it. So it's actually quite, it's quite simple. You're basically holding these two atoms close to each other that want to form a bond, but they can't because they're in silicon. You hit it with photons. The photons give enough energy that the electrons can cross this gap. And that's it. The hard part is in making those crystals. And that's been expensive, and that's where a lot of research has gone into how to make them cheaply.
Yeah.
And this is basically the way diodes work as well, is that you add electricity. They're sort of the other way around. They're the opposite of a solar panel. You put electricity into a light-emitting diode, and when the electron jumps the gap, it emits a photon.
Right.
So it's a reverse solar panel. And in fact, you can use diodes to create electricity. There's an interesting experiment where someone showed that you can use diodes as a refrigerator to generate electricity. So very, very weak effect. Not really worth your effort, but it's an interesting concept. So yeah, I mean, that's solar panels and solar power, which was very important in this, which is why, of course, when the light died, so did their dreams.
That's right. That's the problem with relying on solars that only without battery.
Yeah, well, I guess the thing is they got 22 years of sunlight, and that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Here in Mandurah, we get an average of 5.5 hours over the year of sunny days, which, you think about that, that's average. That includes all the rainy and cloudy days. We have 5.5 hours a day of sunlight. That's why we get a lot of British immigrants to WA, and why we have an enormous solar panel
industry,
rooftop installation.
Yeah. I was counting it the other day because another neighbour was getting it in my street, and now it's like across the road from me, there's 9 houses in a row on my street, which is, I'm just like, that's fantastic. It's so good.
It's
like,
I work in...
the more and more people do it, well, then we really will cut back on this coal dependency.
The closer we get to having to stabilise grid, unfortunately.
That's right. Yeah.
So I work in the energy market, and with the controllers who actually control the grid, and it's interesting that there's enough. We're reaching a point that in sort of 5 years or so, there's basically going to be this tipping point where the amount of solar power in the grid is enough to cause our largest generators to have to shut off. And the danger of that, of course, is that when you get a big cloud cover comes over, or like happened today, there's a big bushfire, smoke comes across, all our solar panels turn off. They disconnect from the grid. They keep generating electricity, but they disconnect from the grid when their voltage shifts by about 20%. And so you suddenly get, hundreds of megawatts of
being
power
drained back.
Just dropped off generation, and suddenly being drawn. And yeah, there's a tipping point coming where the coal generators and gas generators won't be able to respond fast enough. And there'll be a very sunny day. You'll actually have to turn a coal power plant off, which you think, yes, but it takes days to restart a coal power plant. Once you turn it off, you want to be sure it's going to be off for a few days. But solar panels come on and off the grid. So we're going through a whole bunch of market reforms at the moment, which will change the way all that operates. So no worries, and that's happening in the next year or two.
Sounds good.
But anyway, that's solar power, and solar panels are fantastic.
Yeah. So good old Pitchblack back in 2000 was, talking a bit about this solar panel revolution.
Yeah, and clearly, if you've got 22 years of sun, it would be.
Why would you not use three suns or two suns? I think it was three suns.
It's 3 suns. So there's a binary system.
Yeah.
And then a third one. So very complicated. I actually wanted to look up what the mechanics of that would have to be, the orbital paths that
and I mean, like, to be honest, like when you sit back and you think of a story like the Wandering Earth, okay, sun's going to swallow let's push it, it's quite out there, and thinking, is this plausible, like how, you got to go with it. You take this film, you think, well, yeah, in a solar system, in a planet in a solar system where there is 3 suns, and on this planet, not much would survive. But there could be a creature that does survive because every 22 years, there's like a month of blackness.
Yeah.
Like that's just how they survive. Like they've evolved on this planet. Like I can really believe that, you can really go, I can buy into something like that.
It would be, because it rained heavily as well in the dark.
Yeah.
So you could imagine that the water sinks down, you've got underground lakes.
Yeah.
You've got plenty of warmth. So you'd have, instead of having surface oceans, you have underground oceans.
Underground oceans, yeah.
And these guys are just the lungfish crawling out of the underground.
Yeah.
So the underground's like the safe spot. And these are the guys who are sort of venturing out and finding advantage in
anything
when it comes dark, they're able to pop on out.
Yeah. And just they are the superior, like this film has the shots of those huge creatures, those bones, that the characters in this film walk through, like these creatures have just dominated the Earth. They've overpopulated this planet. Sorry, not Earth. But,
I like to think that those big creatures must be. The desert probably doesn't cover the entire planet. There must be.
No, that's right. There might be other.
Those big critters must be around somewhere else. But you could think that maybe that these things have are in decline, really, because if they've reached the point where they've sort of decimated everything around them, they're going to start declining.
Start dropping off.
I mean, they were fighting amongst each other and things, so maybe they only had a few more cycles left before they themselves were critically endangered.
Yeah, because it's really interesting, because the other day I was at the Maritime Museum here about sharks, and like the Megalodon, for example, we had a extinction level event where 60% of the ocean died. And after that event, the Megalodon shows up.
Yeah.
So, and it's around for whatever. And there's another extinction level event that happened, whatever. I can't quite remember the millions of years ago that these occurred. But there was another event where something like 40% of the ocean died, like creatures in the ocean died, and the Megalodon died. So it was around for that period. But it's amazing, isn't it? It's amazing to think that we had some sort of extinction event on the planet, that 60% of the creatures in the ocean all died off. And then this new creature, along with other creatures, obviously, but this new massive shark appears.
Yeah.
Like, you're thinking, what the hell has evolved in the ocean that then you need a predator that is this big to then eat those things, Like, what happened? Where did this giant shark suddenly come from? Yeah, so when again, why I say that is it just makes you think, like on this sort of planet that Pitch Black is based on, where there's these creatures that they just come out of the dark,
an evolutionary gap there, and they filled it.
They filled it for a while. They probably won't live there forever, but they're there.
Yeah, well, that's what we're saying about humans, really.
Yeah, that is.
We've inhabited the Earth as our current form for a minuscule time geographically.
Well, see, that thing about the sharks is the sharks have been here for 450 million years, and humans in that clock, it's like, it's a finger, like it's
we're
nothing.
Already shifting the climate to the point where things are going to get tough for us.
Yes, yeah. So
making life difficult for ourselves.
So look, I think as a film buff, a real good reason to watch this film is color lighting effects that they do to pull off the alien landscape. I did think, coming from an Australian point of view, I was like, is this shot in Australia? Quite often they are. Like Tank Girl's a good example. It's shot in Australia in the desert. And lots of Mad Max, lots of films have been used. In fact, when I looked this up, Kudapidi, there's been 10 to 12 big feature films shot at Kudapidi because of the landscape there.
And because there's so much underground there.
There's a lot of underground things. So, but even just this sort of like this desert location that's not that far off the grid, and, you can get there, and so it makes a lot of sense. And I know other landscapes in Australia are used for that. You've talked previously about Iceland, as another extreme
Oblivion
example.
was using Iceland.
Yeah, so that sort of idea,
Requiem.
Yeah, so that kind of is it. But I think if you're a film buff, a really good reason to go back and watch this film anyway is the lighting and the color. And it's not only I think the way they shot the desert, they definitely pulled it up. It's really bright. Like, you as an audience member, you feel that.
And it changed from that white to a blue as the other suns came up, which had a good
there is, and they played with light. There was a lot of silhouettes effects with Riddick. The fact that
the way they got him to melt into that shadow,
the shadows,
beautiful.
And there's a couple other times where he's kind of like lurking and hiding, and he's in there and he doesn't. Even when he fights the cop, the bounty hunter at the end, and he gets the better hand of him, he kind of seeps into the darkness, and he's talking to him. I can't quite remember what he says to him, but he even says some things to him, and he just disappears into the blackness again, and he's like left stranded to be eaten alive by all those creatures. There's also, when Riddick has his glasses ripped off, there's a flash of light, so it's a good effect as well of us as the audience that we see, it's harsh for him. And remember, like the Fry and the bounty, they talk to him, and it's kind of like an extension effect of them. They're echoing almost through light. So I thought that was cool. The crash landing and the creatures, there's a really pretty cool blurry light effect that they use as well, and the shot is kind of stretched. It's bent, it's warped. If you remember, when she is deciding to kind of let go of all the passengers, the light, when it crashes and it's scheming along the planet, it warps like 2001. There's a warping effect of the light over her face, and she's she's blinded by it. And it's the same with the creatures as well. They do that. There's also, a blind effect, which is Blade Runner. So, at the end of Blade Runner, there's the blinds that he's there. And they do that with Riddick again in this. So he's got the blinds over his features, so it makes him again really mysterious. And I think this film kind of has not so much homage, but there's just those little dots of sci-fi films, So there's 2001, there's Alien, there's Blade Runner. They're all in there, just little snippets.
And as I said, some of the style of cutting and presentation of the scenes is really was a throwback to some 80s
action as well. Yeah, and it probably sets up, Vin Diesel. He's a big action hero.
Yeah, and you can definitely see how he came out of this movie and then just landed all these roles and has grown to be a bit of a force.
Yeah, definitely.
Because he totally dominates this film. The way they, as I said, made him mysterious, the way they wrote him, the way they had the shadows on him, the way he always he gave meaningful looks and was just quiet and very few words. It's almost a bit like Arnie as a Terminator. Arnie totally won that film, and I
definitely
remember watching an interview with Michael Bain, the guy who played Reese.
Yeah, the soldier.
Yeah, the soldier. He was presented as being, you're the soldier you sent back, and you're the hero, and you rescue this girl, and you give your life rescuing her. And he's like, yeah, I'll do that. This would be a great role for me. And of course, little did he, he's introduced to Arnie because he's this Austrian bodybuilder who doesn't have any lines in the film.
Yeah.
Maybe he says 12 words or something funny. And so he thought this was I'll be shoo-in for the, action hero. And nobody knows him. People, you say, Michael Bain, they go, who? Here's a other guy in Terminator. Here's the other guy in The Rock, who played a ghost, Nicolas Cage. He was that other guy in Aliens.
Yeah.
That Ripley. Well, really?
Yeah.
You mean Hudson? No, you mean Hudson? No, Hicks. Hudson? What? No. But yeah, so. And I think, Arnie sort of won that by all those lighting effects on him and his slow movements and the few words he spoke.
He wins out, doesn't he?
It's almost as if you're better off presenting characters with less to say, because then they will have more impact.
Yeah, so I think anyone that's a film buff needs to have a look at this film for the lighting and the colour and that kind of effect. I think that's a really impressive part of the technicality of this film.
And I think actually also, if you don't have a huge budget, have a look at the way they weaved this theme of redemption and spiritual growth.
Yeah, definitely.
Amongst all the characters. It wasn't just one character having it all.
No, pretty much all of them.
It was a demonstration the whole way through. Yeah. And you don't need budget for that.
No.
You just need to be good at writing.
Yeah, definitely. And this film does that. The good old, what are they called? The Whedon brothers? The Wheat brothers? Not the Whedon, Wheats. Josh Whedon. The Wheats.
Yeah, yes. And old Ken
the
Wheat
Wheats,
there.
Jim and Ken.
One of my wife's, one of her favourite childhood movies, which is the Ewoks Battle for Endor.
Yeah.
He wrote and directed that one.
Yeah, good on Jim Wheat. So, yeah, that pretty much brings us to the end. It'd be great to hear your thoughts on Pitch Black. Wasn't one of our classics, but it was one of Surrey's favourites, so we needed to have a look at it at some point. And let us know what you think about Pitch Black. Also, let us know what you think about what we've talked about, and let us know anything do you agree with what we've talked about with Pitch Black? Or did we hit it on the right way? And you can hit us up on our Twitter handle
at SpaceBrainsPod.
Yeah, and also at Instagram and Facebook, which is just Space Brains Podcast. And check that out.
Or you can get me also on at Gravity Undone.
Yes, and that's also where you can get the podcast
at gravityundone.net. Check it out.
Yeah, and likewise on all the other
There's a new podcast coming on 25th of October. It's called Personalized.
Okay.
It's an interview show, talk show. My friend Vincent King.
Yep.
Is an American fellow in Alabama. He will be talking to creators, musicians, writers, find out their personal stories, basically.
Excellent. Sounds cool.
Keep so
next episode, if you want to keep up with us, we're going to have a look at the film Anon, A-N-O-N. It's available on Netflix. It's a 2018 sci-fi film. I don't know much about it, apart from the little tiny blurb that you get.
Anon is short for anonymous?
I think so. Yeah, something like that. So anyway, we look forward.
A bit of a thriller. It'd be
as always, we go in, enjoy watch, and don't really try to look too much into it and see what the result is.
Yeah. See you next time.
See you later.